A dictatorship needs the young to be soldiers. Then along came these youngsters who looked totally unmilitary in their check suits and crepe-soled shoes and with long hair. Besides, a lot of swing music was played by blacks, and it had its roots in Africa.
Oder in USA.
In 1942, Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, wrote to his deputy Reinhard Heydrich, saying that swing fans are degenerate and should be sent to concentration camps.
We knew there were concentration camps. We thought you went there, worked and got your food. But that you died there and starved, we didn't know that.
Over 1,000 young German men were sent to the youth protection camp at Moringen. Here they were tortured, and more than 150 were executed on charges of high treason. On the 11th of May 1940, Allied leaders took the decision to bomb German cities. Within hours, the first bombs were falling on Berlin, Hamburg and Hanover. Over the next 4 years, Allied bombers brought terror to German civilians.
In that air raid shelter, I saw women throw themselves on the ground and scream, pray and panic when the light flickered and the fresh air pipe rattled. We could hear the rumbling of the bombers as they got nearer, and the detonations came and then died away. Then came the next wave, and then the next.
By 1944, the raids were happening every night.
Und dann saß man unten im Luftschutzkeller. Und da habe ich Leute gesehen, die hatten...
Then we sat in the air raid shelter. I saw men who were covered in war medals, close combat awards, everything. Sergeants and officers too, who were utterly terror-stricken. They shook with fear. At the front, you knew where the enemy was. But being in the cellar of an 8-story house that could collapse on you at any moment felt like the most terrifying experience anyone could go through. It was the same for me. I was scared shitless.
Hitler rallied the nation.
Zunächst steht auf der Welt das Gesetz der Auslese. Und der Kräftigere und der Gesündere, der hat von der Natur das Lebensrecht bekommen. Weh dem, der schwach ist, der nicht auf eigenem Boden steht, der darf von niemand irgendeine Hilfe erwarten.
Hitler, das war...
Hitler was beyond our reach. I'd go further and say he was God. My greatest dream would have been for him to come into our air raid shelter. As a child, one has these fantasies, and put his heavy, godlike Hitler hand on my shoulder and say, "You are a young German soldier."
Junger deutscher Soldat.
Dann kommt eine neue deutsche Jugend und die dressieren wir schon von ganz Kleinem an für diesen neuen Staat. Wir wollen jetzt einmal ganz eiskalt und nüchtern die Interessen unseres Volkes verteidigen.
1942
In 1942, my father came home on leave. He'd been called up. I was already in bed, and I heard him say to my mother, "If someone doesn't shoot Hitler dead soon, he'll lead us to ruin." To me, it was awful that my father could say that about our beloved Führer. We'd been indoctrinated. We knew no better. I remember even wondering whether I should report it.
Ich weiß noch, dass ich mir sogar überlegt habe, ob ich das nicht melden müsste.
As the bombing took an ever greater toll, the Nazis decided that the nation's most precious resource had to be protected. Children were evacuated to the countryside and lived in camps run by the Hitler Youth. The evacuees faced a punishing regime.
The drill we had in that camp was harsher than it was for many soldiers. We had team leaders on convalescent leave from the SS, from the Labour Service and from teacher training courses. They all had their own set programs and they wanted to try them out on us. The first ones came and worked us half to death. They worked our asses off.
Newsreels showed the evacuees enjoying happy, healthy holidays.
In one sense, we were barbarians. We did field exercises and the usual drill. But we were also taught how to kill animals, cut off chickens' heads, kill hares, wring pigeons' necks and the like. They were barbaric tactics to toughen us up.
Na Kitty, was machst du denn? Willst du noch nach Hause schreiben? Ja. Na, du hast ja noch gar nichts auf deinem Bogen drauf. Wie fängt man denn einen Brief an? Natürlich, meinen lieben Eltern.
Ich bin gesund. Wie eine Rübe.
Ich hatte einmal eine falsche Anschrift.
I once made a mistake in the address and my letter was returned. Then I saw that parts of my letter had been blacked out. In other words, what I wrote was being controlled. Perhaps I wasn't saying the right thing, or maybe it was all meant to be a secret.
If you dared help yourself to pudding, even a teaspoonful of it, you were punished. The camp leader had a stick. Boys were thrashed. The boys fought each other a lot too. There was also a smokehouse in the camp that I was in. They locked you in and sealed it so you couldn't get any air. Eventually they let you out again. Or you were sent to the toilets, which were outside and hot in the summer. There were nails in the wall so you couldn't sit down or lean back, but had to stand in the stench for hours.
In the cities, older Hitler Youth boys were sent into action while the bombs were still falling.
When the siren sounded, we went to our positions. That is, we assembled first, then we were sent into action. To be sent into a firestorm after large-scale bombing was very, very dangerous. You had to go bent double in the middle of the street, because above that, the oxygen had all been consumed. And the larger buildings often collapsed, so there were a lot of dead bodies.
The bombing raids would claim more than 500,000 victims. Hitler Youth boys had to pull bodies from the ruins.
We didn't have protective suits. We did everything with our bare hands. We had to overcome our revulsion when we touched dead bodies that were covered in blood and stuck in the rubble.
Einen Toten anfassten, der natürlich blutbeschmiert war, der zum Teil eingeklemmt war.
Ich wollte die nicht anfassen. Und ich erinnere mich noch, das gehört auch zu den Sprüchen, die...
I didn't want to touch her. I remember. It was one of the things I'll never forget. There was an NCO, or a sergeant, I don't remember. He bellowed at me. It was the only way he knew. He said, Lothar, if she was still alive, you'd touch her quick enough.
Da würdest du die vielleicht gerne anfassen.